Firstly, let's try and ask the witness to confirm whether he's still under oath. Thank you. Forget Lubala.
Chairperson, Commissioner Musi, we're at the stage where we want to remove those worrying lines on your foreheads. But permit us to start here procedurally. And you'll appreciate it when Ms. Sello addresses you because of this prevailing uneasiness that has come to the benefit of the Commission. There's a new development that I'm going to give over to Ms. Sello to explain to you before this witness proceeds, and Mr. Solomon will also address you. But at this stage, I'm handing over to Ms. Sello just to take you through about this essential procedural step. Unless there are questions, I'm giving over to Ms. Sello, Chairperson, Commissioner Musi, with your permission.
Thank you, Chairman, and Commissioner Musi, and thank you, Mr. Lebala. Chair, before the adjournment, it came to light that the statement made in the witness's statement regarding confidentiality of certain documents had also been made in Mr. Grisel's statement, who finished testifying yesterday. This aspect of the statement was not dealt with Mr. Grisel. During the lunch adjournment, I took the liberty of checking the statement, and indeed, Commissioners, a similar statement appears. In the circumstances, I beg leave to recall Mr. David Grisel as a witness to speak to these paragraphs, to confirm or deny, or however he deems fit to deal with these aspects for the benefit of the Commission, so that at the end of his testimony, there is absolute clarity regarding his statement, his testimony, its value, and the applicability of the contents of this statement. Against that background, Commissioners, I would beg leave to recall Mr. Grisel to deal purely with this aspect of his evidence.
Sorry, Chair, is this in relation to the recalling of Mr. Grisel? Yes, no, we've got no objection. I can, and I'm sure Mr. Grisel will assure the Commission that no documents falling within the category described by Ms. Sello were held back by Mr. Grisel, but he can confirm that himself.
I mean, with your leave, Chair, I call Mr. David Grisel to the stand.
Can you ask the witness to take the oath? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Grisel, first and foremost, let me thank you for availing yourself at such short notice to assist the Commission with regard to these issues. Can I just confirm one thing? Do you have your 35-page statement that you submitted to this Commission before you?
I do, Chairman.
Thank you. I would like to refer you to page 2 thereof, and in particular, paragraphs 1.9 and 1.10. And I would request you to read both paragraphs into the record.
Chairperson, I'm referring to page 2 of my statement. Paragraph 1.9 reads, where possible, Armscor has declassified documents and has made such documents available to the Commission. However, some documents cannot be declassified and thus made available to the Commission for various reasons, including maintaining good diplomatic relations between South Africa and other countries and ensuring South Africa's compliance with contractual obligations on a number of levels, in brackets, namely a country-to-country level, a defense industry level, as well as on individual bidder level, close brackets. Furthermore, in instances where declassification is not possible, regard must be given to the fact that a decision to declassify certain documents cannot be taken by Armscor alone, but must include consultation and collaboration with the appropriate party. Paragraph 1.10 reads, with reference, where reference is made in this statement to process undertaken and or documents prepared over which other parties exercised control and which fell outside of Armscor's responsibility, I am only able to give high-level information on such processes and or documents. Although I make mention of these processes and or documents for purposes of giving as complete an account of the procurement process as possible, I can neither expound on nor make any documents available in this regard for the reasons explained in paragraph 1.9 above.
Thank you, Mr. Grissel. Please clarify for this commission. You have testified over the course of 3 days. You have made available certain documentation in support of your testimony. Is there any evidence you have been unable to provide to this commission that is within your personal knowledge on the basis of what is stated in paragraph 1.9 and paragraph 1.10?
Commissioner, I can categorically state that no information was withheld from the Commission, which would normally have fallen under the auspices of these paragraphs.
In respect of what's contained in 1.9, you state in the last sentence, although I make mention of these processes and or documents for purposes of giving as complete an account of the procurement process as possible, I can neither expound or nor make documents available in this regard for the reasons explained in paragraph 1.9. I want to find out from you, the processes that you testified on, did you fail to expound on any such processes because of the statements made in paragraph 1.9?
Chairperson, I can confirm that I did not.
Just to make sure we are clear, Mr. Grissel, are there any documents that you withheld from this commission for any reason whatsoever?
I can confirm, Chair, that I have not withheld any documents from this commission, and if the commission would allow, I would be willing to expunge these paragraphs from my statement.
Thank you, Mr. Grissel. Commissioners, in the light of the witness's response and his willingness to expunge these paragraphs from his statement, I make application that paragraphs 1.9 and 1.10 be struck out of Mr. Grissel's statement.
Mr. Council, just for my own understanding, am I to understand you to be saying that these two paragraphs, 1.9 and 1.10, had no impact whatsoever on the evidence that you have given?
Chair, I can confirm that that is so. These two paragraphs are standard disclaimers which would appear in all of the submissions, and it had no bearing whatsoever on the testimony that I have presented to this commission.
Am I to understand you to be saying that there is no documents that you could have given to us, which you did not because of paragraph 1.9 and 1.10?
Chair, I can categorically state that I did not withhold any documents from the Commission, that I have made available everything that had any bearing on my testimony, and that nothing was withheld as a result of these paragraphs in my statement.
Thank you. Advocate Silo, your application is granted, and therefore paragraphs 1.9 and 1.10 of the witness's statements are expunged from his statement.
I'm indebted to the Commission. Commissioners, that is the clarification we sought from this witness. I have no further questions.
Thank you. Mr. Clisel, thanks a lot. You're excused. And I think I should personally thank you also for availing yourself on such a short notice. Thank you.
It is an honor, Chair. Thank you.
Advocate Duval.
Chairperson, Commissioner Musi, was still engaged at this stage with procedural issues that came in the light of the self-same paragraph, which is the subject of your address currently. At this stage, before we soldier on from our side, we'd like to give over to Solomon SC, and you'd appreciate why we're inclined to do that. If you permit us at this stage, allow us to request Solomon SC to address you.
Thank you, Chair, and Commissioner Musi. Chair, from Arms Corps' perspective, it has adopted the approach that all documentation must be made available to the Commission. I just want to place on record that I think already last year or prior to that, a memory stick containing about 35,000 individual documents was made available to the Secretariat on an unconditional basis. The documentation specifically referred to in Mr. Rob Vermeulen's statement are documents, I understand, that would have been contained on that memory stick. The disclaimer that standardized in all the witness statements, as Mr. Grissel has testified, was to deal with issues of confidentiality in the first instance that would apply on a country-to-country level, a defense industry level, as well as on an individual bidder level, and to maintain the highest levels of cooperation and free and open communication between organizations such as Arms Corps and international suppliers and governments. We understood from the evidence that had previously been given by, I think it was Colonel Schultz, Admiral Schultz, when it came to documentation, I can refer the Commission to page 419 to line 16 to 420, line 19, being led by my learned and good friend, Mr. Labala SC, that insofar as the DOD was concerned, there were certain matters that remained of a confidential nature that had not been declassified, and that brought us to the second basis contained in the statements of the various witnesses, namely documents that had been classified by the Department of Defense, not by Arms Corps, which was not within Arms Corps' purview to declassify. So essentially, there are two broad categories, the one I've mentioned relating to the contractual obligations and the confidentiality that attached to country-to-country agreements. And then the second category was documents that were in the possession of Arms Corps but were in fact classified as secret or confidential, perhaps restricted in the hands of the DOD. Arms Corps' position is to do all in its power to attempt to place both of those documents, classes of documents, before the Commission in respect of Mr. Vermeulen in particular, but in respect of the other witnesses in general. And if the need arises to bring any portion or more than that, the entire document into the realm of perhaps a closed session or confidentiality, that can be addressed at the appropriate time. What I have suggested with my learned friend, Mr. Labala, is that we take the documents that have been redacted. I think there are only two, or perhaps one, in Mr. Vermeulen's statement, and have them unredacted so that they are a clean copy, be placed before the Commission, and then perhaps the argument can ensue as to why portions of those documents have been blacked out. I'm assured by Mr. Vermeulen that the technical information that he has sought to keep confidential would not impact upon the task which the Commission is presently engaged in, but obviously it's something for the Commission itself to determine. Insofar as DOD classified documents are concerned, which have been referred to by Mr. Vermeulen, we would provide the Secretariat with a list of those documents so that they could perhaps attend to the declassification process. We would also ourselves attempt independently to obtain the declassification of those documents in the hands of the Department of Defense. That is a process that may take some time. I understand perhaps Mr. Vermeulen is best placed to answer it, but I understood from him it's something that could be done by perhaps Monday or Tuesday next week. We will also attempt to address these problems that may occur in the other witnesses that fall under the Arms Corps banner, so that similar problems don't occur. So, Chair, really that's in essence what our submissions are. Thank you.
Advocate Lubana.
I beg your pardon, Chair. Let me get some guidance from my colleague. Just a second. Chairperson, Commissioner Musi, Solomon SC has clarified what appeared to have been an obfuscation of issues that would have undoubtedly delayed the hearing. Were in your hands, but what has come out clearly is that AMSCO has to start the process of going to obtain the declassification of such documentation, and they committed themselves that they will. I would like to place it on record that we are still ready to proceed with this witness, and I would like to highlight what Solomon SC has said. He says, if such documentation become available, the technical information that this witness would like to black out will be blacked out, but this won't impact on the task that you have to decide, the task at hand. And that's comforting, and I am confident that Solomon SC could account to what is talking about, and we are able to act in appreciation of that accountability. Now, with that in mind, we are ready to proceed. But if it's appropriate that we need to go back to the drawing board, retreat, and come on a different day, which is akin to saying, let's line our ducks in a row. We're also willing to. Now, as far as we're concerned on our part, whatever delay is going to be occasioned, it should not be attributed to our team. Once again, we are ready to proceed.
I think in all fairness, one needs to give the AMSCO's legal team an opportunity of trying to do what needs to be done. And then secondly, in that process, if at all there are any of DOD documents which are classified, which this witness might require in order to give evidence, I would request Advocate Lubala and your team to try and assist them in order to get DOD to declassify those documents. If they can't declassify them, then try and get a way in which we can deal with those documents, because whether they are classified or declassified or not, we'll want to have access to them. So in other words, if a toll DOD is of the view that they cannot be dealt with in public, they must say so, and from there we'll have to try and devise a manner in which we can deal with those documents. Two, I think I heard Advocate Solomon saying that probably the witness will need a few days up to Tuesday or so in order to do what he needs to do. And I think in these circumstances, it will only be appropriate that we adjourn and give AMSCO the opportunity to do what needs to be done, and we'll have to reconvene on a later date. I think according to our plan, we're not supposed to sit next week. So that will give AMSCO enough time to do what needs to be done. And those circumstances, I think we need to adjourn, and I think we'll come back on the 14th. I think that will be Monday the 14th. 14th. That will be Monday the 14th. I think that will give AMSCO enough time to do what needs to be done, and also it will give you, Advocate Lubala, you and your team, to do what needs to be done if it's necessary with DOD. So in that case, we'll then adjourn until the 14th of October. Thank you.
guys, are these things whisper into Fanya's?
No, I'm like,
Yeah.
no, there's two sets of
Bipolar.
No,
Bipolar.
bipolar and dyslexia and schizophrenia.
No, bipolar. But I love how he didn't even address the fact that we said, because he has the document.
No, I'll